We are so dead!
What's happening, motherfuckers? So, before I get into this video, I'm just going to make one thing clear. I've been on PlayStation for a long time, and the way that PlayStation's going down the pan, I am not feeling it. So, as soon as Xbox drops, I will be jumping over to Xbox, which means I will be carrying on with ESO, and I will have to regrind everything again, for the third time. But I'm going to make a few videos then to show you how easy it is to grind up shit, and how much fun you can do whilst you're doing it, how fast it can be as well. So, that's another video another time. This is my last video on this account on PlayStation, so I hope all you guys have enjoyed it. PlayStation's been fun to me. You've all been bitches, you've all been lovable bitches, but yeah, it's been fun. This video is going to be focused around tanking and how to actually tank properly, because I am continuously plagued by going into group finders, random dungeons, whenever you're just trying to help people, and I'm forced to be the tank. I can't be my DPS because there's always a shit tank and I'm going to have to swap to tank. It's not so much they're a shit tank, it's the fact that what they're basing their tanking off of is so unrealistic compared to how you can actually tank viably, comfortably, and effectively. So, I'll give you an example. If you're doing Maelstrom, you're not going to run up in there on a character with Thrashians, inner light on your front bar, race against time on the back bar and shit like that, when you've just made the character and you're trying to replicate what you're seeing someone else do. Because it's going to be a struggle. Same goes for tanking. When you're seeing other people that are tanking and they're doing things that are completely, you know, off the wall or different, that's because they're comfortable. Don't be trying to replicate shit they're doing. Do the basic shit that I'm going to show you 3 setups of how to tank very effectively. So there's 3 builds here, and every single one of them is good enough to get you through all content in this game. If you want to change that and tweak that and decide to go outside of whatever it is, that's your deal. But every single thing has been achieved in this game on these builds, and that's comfortable as fuck to do. So without further ado, we're going to get into this first build, and ignore my phone in the background going crazy. It's a fucking uni ship. So we're going to show you the stats for the first build, and then we're going to go into the gear. These are my unbuffed stats. If you notice, I've got a decent mag pool, got a good stam pool, good health, great mag recovery, great health recovery, good stam recovery-ish. My resistances are great unbuffed, and if we just buff all of this up for you quickly so you can see it. Just before I do that quickly, the crown tripods and the crown poisons are actually better than the crafted ones now. Only by a slight bit, but they are better. So if you've got the crown poison or the crown potions here, you see that's 9, 8, 3, 4 on the health, just for example. And then here we've got 9, 7, and it's the same for all other resources. It's only a little bit, but it is better. So, you know, if you've got them, use them. But let's just buff up quickly so you can see these stats. And you're looking at 1,500 recovery, good stam recovery, health recovery is great, and my resistances are very even. The reason being that they're even is because whenever I get hit by mag or I get hit by stam, there's no giant bolstering difference between them. Every time I see people doing their builds and I try and help them to tweak it a little bit, they overlook little things like this. So they'll do their resistances, but then they'll do their points after, and now they're sitting 3,000 points above in spell resistance, and some ads are hitting them harder, but they're not actually the strongest ad there. So if you've got a 2H ad and a mage and they're both hitting you at the same time, one of them hitting you really hard, you'll know that one is the one that, you know, is definitely the primary ad in the scene or something like that. So you need to make sure you've got that one's attention. It just makes it easier to have both of them even. But as you saw, the stats were all great buffed. So let's get into the setup for the first gear. Battalions, probably by hands down the best set in the game when it comes to tanking. I'd comfortably say that. Whenever you're, and this gets buffed by minors and majors, so your heavy attack on your back bar, which I'll get into in a minute, is going to buff this, and your igneous is going to buff this as well. So we're just going to do a quick igneous buff, and we'll go back and look at it. It's at 3,539. That's every second, giving it to all of your group mates. It's absolutely amazing. So perfect. Plus to the fact that I'm running Echo and Vigor to be able to proc that on people, so I can definitely 100% keep up a great heal on all people around me at all times by doing basically nothing. We're going defending and reinforce just to keep up max resistances on that bar. This I was, oh shit, wrong one. This one I was actually going to change to powered, because I'm finding that this enchant isn't as good. I mean, I'll show you the enchant. This enchant isn't as good as the poison that I can run on the back bar. I mean, yeah, you're getting a little bit of fracture, which is good, and you can stack that up with your puncture. But at the same time, if you're running the vulnerability poisons and you're not running healers, obviously this is a tank that doesn't run with healers, you've got an extra heal for yourself and you increase the damage taken on the victim. Your whole group can do that. So let's say, for example, you're in execute phase and you've got a 2.3 second window that's continuously proccing for your DPS, you know, during execute. That's perfect. I mean, it's going to just increase the damage, so, you know, why not? StoneKeeper, this just goes hand in hand with Battalions, because you're going to be blocking to keep your group mates alive. That's going to take a lot of resources out of you, because obviously you're blocking a lot, and that's going to keep on popping your StoneKeeper, which is then going to give you your resources back. Stam DKs can, you know, burn a lot of stam and then use Igneous to get some of it back, coupled with their pot, but StoneKeeper will just work hand in hand with both of them. And then final for the set on this is Yoln. It's not perfected. There's a reason for it not being perfected. 1k health doesn't make or break my build, so I'm not going to go and farm that, especially when I'm leaving. So, you know, it's not going to make or break anyone's build. It's 1k health. But Yoln is a great set for all tanks to be running all the time, pretty much, because you take reduced damage from all adds and stuff like that. Plus, you're giving everybody extra damage when you're aggroing something. If you're aggroing something, you're a tank. So, you know, Eureka moment, you're going to have something aggroed, so people are going to end up buffed. Let me just go back over this setup again so you've seen it one more time. But you've got Battalion's Dagger, Battalion's Shield, and then you've got the resto. I'd personally go powered because I prefer to run vulnerability poisons, but you know, I can't be bothered to transmute that right now, so that's up to you what you do. Light, medium, so we get our Undaunted passives out of that, and then we've got Yoln on the body with Battalion's Jewelry. This does not have to be gold. It doesn't have to be purple. It can literally be blue. I ran this for a very long time, and I did all of my Black Rose carries for people and shit like that, no problem. The stats are absolutely fine. So you're seeing that, there's a tiny drop in stam. It's actually gone up in mag, because my mag recovery was higher back then, my health recovery's dropped a little bit. Tiny little drop on the health, that's because I'm not running stuff to buff my health a bit. It's not healthy jewelry, it's actually robust and shit like that, so I've actually got more stam. But you can see there is a very fucking minimal difference. So for what you would spend on getting this, it's not worth it. Like, if you're just trying to make or break a build and you can't put it together because you're holding out on one piece of jewelry because it's not the same quality, stop being an idiot. Just go and get the blue piece of jewelry you need and put the build together. It's absolutely fine. It does work, I promise you. So yeah, just quickly go over the skills and stuff for, you know, in the majority of the tanking builds. You've got your Echo and Vigor, which is a great move for all of your teammates, especially when you're popping that off of your Battalions or any kind of monster sets you want to use, like Earth or Bogdan, to try and help out. So you got your Altar, which this is a flex spot. You can put on Turn Evil, which I way prefer Turn Evil, because if you're walking into a group of ads, light attack, chain, pull them in, Talon, and then instantly put that on them, and there we go, everything's done. You can now start aggroing, and you don't have to worry about anything going anywhere. They start to go anywhere, you Talons them again, and then you'll be able to hit that again in no time. So you don't actually have to aggro everything straight away. You can just make them all stop, basically, hold them in position, and then start to aggro. It's a lot easier to keep things under control. We've got Igneous, obviously we need that, Heroic, and Ramsack, which gives us reduced damage taken, which is perfect. Barrier, you can use that as a flex spot. This gives you more mag recovery having it on, so we're at 1329 right now, but if we take that off and we put on Shield Ult, which is perfect, because as soon as you pop this Shield Ult, you get 3 punctures for everything. So let's say I'm out of stam, now I'm just puncturing everything, I'm low sweeping, I'm getting more ult back, and it's costing me nothing. So as soon as I come out of this, I'm ready to just go back into my own block, and I'm comfortable. Didn't use my pot, didn't use my stam. Easy as fuck to keep hold of aggro. So don't overlook Shield Ult because someone said, don't use Shield Ult, you have to run this. No, run what works, run what's viable, run what you're comfortable with, and then eventually change it. Now to the back bar, which will piss people off even more, is I'm running a resto. Why am I running a resto? Because yeah, I could knock things off balance if I wanted to go and use something like the Maelstrom Lightning. That's fine, you can get extra damage, but most of the time people can't capitalize on extra damage if they can't survive. So I use the resto because not only I can get a gigantic fucking pullback of my mag when I do some heavy attack because of tenacity passive plus the resto heavy attack, but I'm also giving myself one of the mendings, I can't remember which one it is. I'll increase my healing by 25% after that, or 36, or whatever the fuck it is. So you're seeing what I can do. If, let's say for example I wanted to do a heavy attack into a resto ult, that resto ult's going to heal up my group. I go into an Igneous, buff that heal, I'm giving them more heals, I'm blocking, heals are popping off from my set, and not only is that, oh, I have to turn that off. Not only is all of that happening, but Resto Ult gives me the same effect essentially as Warhorn, because I'm giving everybody crit damage. So not only are they getting the heals and the safety, they can comfortably fight, but then they can utilize that crit damage that they're able to then do. So Resto Ult, don't overlook it just because most tanks run a Destro on the back bar. Resto is way more comfortable, and you're only missing out on Wall of Elements. To be honest, you're better off keeping everything under control with Talons and Turn Evil anyway. So there we go. So for the back bar moves, just to point them out quickly, you've got your Green Blood. Show you how strong this Green Blood can actually heal for. I just put this on here. I'm going to pop the health all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to show you how we can get this really high. Sorry about the dog barking in the background. All my friends have just turned up. So I'm going to pop this down, get this nice and low. 1 Igneous, 1 heal, 38k. And we didn't even use the heavy attack on the back bar. There was no pot to buff that up or anything like that. So just between your Igneous and that, you're able to keep yourself alive at minimal cost. So don't overlook that. That's why this is a flex spot personally for me. If you want to have that on for people to help them, that's great to help them. But if you've got a group that, you know, don't run head first into a set of ads and go, oh, it's not aggroed, then this is better because you get more damage overall when all the ads are stunned. Yeah, so that's the first of the setups. I'll get into the second setup, and then I'll get into the third setup, and then I'll do the CP for you, because the CP doesn't change across all of these builds. That's what makes it so comfortable. So that was the Battalion setup. I hope you enjoyed that. Okay, and for the second of the builds, as you can probably guess, the part of the set's Ebon. Before I get into it, this build is the easiest by far to get, so you haven't got to try and struggle about farming gear and it taking you forever. It's very easy to get hold of all of this gear, so it shouldn't take you more than a couple of days at max to put this together. This is more of a support your group and, you know, work with your friends kind of thing to, like, you know, get to know the role. You don't want to try and be overly supportive, spamming your things like your Echo and Vigor and, you know, putting yourself out of stam. So this is not the training wheels build, but this is basically like every tank should have these two setups in their inventory, because they both come in handy. You have a giant, huge health pool, and because of that, you're allowed to take bigger hits, and you can stand there and use your healer if you're running with a healer, because you're trying to get comfortable before you start running without a healer. So stop rambling on, get into the setup. We've got, this is the stats for this, and by the way, I changed my Mundus from the Atronaut, which I had on a moment ago, to the Serpent for this, because it just, the way I've got it set up, this is the ideal stats. We're looking at 45.5k health, almost 46, 21.8k stam, and 18.8k mag, which is great on all of them. We've got good resistances, good mag recovery, and then let's just buff that up and show you what you're working with when it's buffed. You've got great mag recovery, you've got great mag, great health, great stam, good resistances, and your health obviously and everything stayed the same. We're going to pop this down and I'll show you the second part of this set as to why this works out really well for tanks that are just trying to get into tanking and, you know, trying to figure out where the comfortable sort of setting for them is. So just going to pop that, going to heal up how we normally do, and as most people could probably tell, we're rocking TrollKing, and you've got yourself a nice gigantic health recovery pool that you've given to your teammates if they were low, so that could have popped on them before, but that's going to give you a giant health recovery. And with all of this health, sometimes you're going to need a little bit more help to try and get that back up if the healer's not as good, because, you know, you can't rely on anybody really but yourself. Let's get into the gear. Rocking Ebon on the front, and this isn't all great trait, this is just because it's not my favourite shit, so this is just how I have it there. Ebon, we're Ebon on the back bar, so we keep at that buff. Vulnerability poison still, that's powered there, just in case you want to see that. These aren't best in slot traits, that's actually from my PvP character, I was just trying to keep up the Undaunted. But we've got medium and light for TrollKing, and then Plague Doctor on the body, so we can give ourselves a giant bolster and health pool. That's just going to help us to take bigger hits. And then again, on the jewelry, don't hold yourself back just because of quality, it doesn't matter, you're looking for that extra piece, because if you take a look at the blue jewelry, it really isn't a fucking difference. You're giving a tiny difference to people in your group, so there we go. The CP and everything has stayed the same. The only move that I've changed out for this is I've put on shield ult, just because if you're not comfortable tanking, you can throw on your shield ult, and like I said before, you can keep on just heavy attacking through it to be able to do your thing. Or you've got your resto on the back bar, so if you wanted to just pop off heals on your teammates, keep them nice and comfortable, you'll be giving them huge heals, so it's great. Let's go back into the skills for this. Yep, nothing's changed, as you can see. Very easy. I'm not trying to put on things like let me just show you. I'm not trying to put on things like balance over hardened armor, because then you're going to lose strength on your shields, and sometimes tanks are going to do things like hit this and then they're going to hit this accidentally, and now they've got half a shield. So there's no point in running things like that. I mean, yeah, okay, if you're really comfortable in your tank and that's how you like to play, by all means run things like deep breath to interrupt people. Run things like noxious to up damage for a few people that are running flame in your group or something like that. But this is what works, and this is what makes people comfortable in tanking, to be able to let them jump outside the realms and try different things. So let's go over this build one more time for you so you've seen it. You've got Ebon, and then you've got your vulnerability poisons again, just to increase your healing, increase the damage taken. TrollKing, you've got your Undaunted for that, and then Plague Doctor and Ebon. But it just reminded me of one more thing. Don't overlook little things like this. Being in a Fighters Guild, for every undead or Dremora or werewolf that you kill, you can get 9 ult. Sometimes you will get the last hit on an ad, so you can put points in there to be able to get things like that out of things. So make sure you're reading all of these things properly, because little things like that can really make or break builds. The fact that you're going to generate so much extra ult in ad pools and stuff like that, you can burn them back to back to back. Your groups will just be blowing through shit. So that was the build for this one, and I'm going to show you the final build, which is the build that I like to run with people that I run with regularly. People that don't put their face forward at the front of the ship and get smacked by the iceberg. People that understand how ads work. People that, hit hard without needing to be kept alive. But again, I would only run this setup if you're going to be playing it with people that you 100% trust, and you know about their abilities, you know they're competent, they're good players, and they don't rely on people. For example, you've seen them do a DPS test. You're not just hearing that they've done a DPS test, you know they hit hard. You trust them to not be a potato. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the third and final build. Okay, so with this build, this is what I like to run when I've got my good team, and the reason I say that is because I know they're going to survive. I know that these buffs can be utilized effectively. So when I get into the stats, again, I've changed my Mundus for this. Let me just quickly show you the unbuffed stats. So we've got 25k stam, great. We've got good health recovery. Health and good mag. All the recoveries have dropped a little bit, because when I'm running with good people, you don't get pushed down to that point where you start burning all of your shit. And if you do burn it, you can just effectively pull it back by saving your pot, or using your ult or something like that. So it's up to you how you do it, but if you're running with a good group, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. Let's go into the skill bar, because we've changed up a little bit. We are actually running Wall of Elements on the back bar this time, because we're running the Maelstrom bar for the back, which I'll get into in a minute. Obviously we're going to now knock things off balance, knock them in place, and stun them, which is as effective as it possibly can be. But that's because I know my group is able to do that. Let me just quickly buff up and show you the stats on this fully buffed. Ignore the hang and meat. So we see we're over 1,000 on all recoveries, which is great. We've got good weapon damage, which translates to heals. We've got good resistances. I changed my stone to the Lord for this to be able to up my health and drop my recoveries a little bit, so that we still have a good health pool as a tank. And just quickly to show you how strong our vigor is now. We've got a 12k vigor, which is insane for a tank to be able to pop off a continuous 12k vigor like that. You'll keep not only your teammates alive, but you won't even have to struggle at all. We're running shield discipline on the front bar, just to make sure that we can hold all the aggro, because we are going to be burning ourselves down quickly, grabbing stuff. So popping quick ults gets us resources back quickly. So cheap and cheerful ults will get us back our stuff, and we can keep up the aggro. Let's get into the gear quickly. So we're rocking Powerful Assault on the front bar, infused, reduce weapon damage to be able to just reduce things. Obviously they're going to hit weaker. If they do go rogue, you can just light attack something quickly, and you're fine. Nern Honed on the shield gives you a great resistance, so that's no difference to reinforce basically. I've just had this for a long time and can't be bothered to change it back. Maelstrom back bar, that's going to knock things off balance, and again I'm rocking the same increased damage enchant, poison. So make sure you try and get hold of these things, they are great. Lord Warden, because that way I can keep my group alive. Sometimes they're going to have, you know, the survivability and the non-potato-ness to be able to not die when they walk into an ad pool, but they are still DPS and they still have low resistances. So standing in my circle every now and then, if they have to, like they might have to do at the end of CantStopCor, then I think it's called CantStopCor, new shit, I can't remember, then they're going to end up catching that buff, and it's going to be good for them, because just standing in and out of it is going to keep them alive a lot easier, because they won't be taking hits as hard. So 2-piece Lord Warden, and then couple that with Yoln. Yoln gives you the extra 129 damage, which you can then stack up on top of that with the 299 damage you're giving to your group. So just being near you, they're going to get humongous damage increases when you stand in front of a boss and you've got it aggroed. That's going to allow them to do more damage, obviously. Then you've got your Wall of Elements on the Maelstrom back bar to cause off balance. Then you've got your Talons to hold them in place, they do less damage. You can now stun them, and then go to work on the whole group, making the ones weaker that hit hard just in case they go somewhere. So this is by far the most comfortable build if you're going to be running with a good group, because you can pop ults off back to back. They're going to be giving them oops, I got the wrong thing. This is meant to be barrier. You can pop ults back to back, which are going to be helpful to your group and to yourself, keeping you alive, keeping them alive, and burning through shit. But again, I can't stress it enough, don't try and run something like this if you aren't comfortable running something like this. If I could choose one of these setups out of all of these setups to put on and wear all the time as my only tanking setup, it would be this exact setup I'm putting on right now. So take note, I'm trying to save you time and wasting your money, energy, effort. You know, you don't need to get shouted at by your friends and called a bad tank. Everyone's got a learning curve, everyone's got to go through it. But this by far is 100% the best setup that you can possibly run on your tank. So I hope this video has been enjoyable to you guys. I'm going to go over the CP quickly. I think I have a clip somewhere that I could show of this tank in action a couple of times. But as you can see from the stats, I'm pretty sure, even with the Lord Wonderstone on, I'm going to go and change that now back to the Astronaut. But you can see that the stats are absolutely great. It's ridiculous. It always gets me how tanks can't hold their own in dungeons, because they're trying to do something way above their pay grade basically, and you know, they're sitting there defending it, and because they're seeing it working. But that's like me seeing somebody fixing a car. I have no understanding of being a mechanic, and now I'm trying to do it. Someone's trying to, you know, give me a bit of solid advice. Because I have a spanner and I own a car, I'm arguing back because I've just watched McLaren fix their car, and I think, you know, I'm just as good, why not? No, it's not that easy. You need to practice over time. Practice makes perfect. So let me just go over this setup one more time for you guys so you've seen it, and then we're going to go into the CP. Battalions, Resto, Poison, StoneKeeper, love StoneKeeper, Undaunted passives obviously, Yoln, and Battalions. If you can get recovery glyphs on it, then go for that. Let's go into the CP quickly, and then we'll finish this up. We've got 13 points into Mighty, because that translates over to heals. Having that extra damage will give us extra heals, so that's how that works. Plus we're giving ourselves extra chances to crit heal, because we're always doing that, and we're trying to get Last Stand, because that's a great passive to have. I put 30 points into here. You can put them into anything in here if you want, but you're trying to get repulse, because every time you do a block, you're always going to be sending back damage to something. Plus you go and hit something like this, and you can see that it's actually gone up a little bit. Not a lot, but it goes up a little bit. So there we go. It's great. Quicker they die, quicker you're in and out. Bless 13%, obvious reasons, and 20% in there just so, like you saw earlier, we can hit giant 39k heals on ourselves at minimal cost with just a heavy attack if we're going to do that on the back bar, or just an igneous and a green blood. 22% into block, obviously, we're a tank, and 10% into tumbling, because sometimes when you're pulling aggro, I like to do this, what's called soft tawning. Well, you'll light attack, you'll pull something, and then you're going back into the group, and as you're grabbing the aggro, you roll a little bit just so you can hold everything there. You've got most of the shit chasing you, you let them follow you if you know what they're going to do in their attack patterns, and then you can roll a bit, just dodge a few of their hits so you don't get hit, and now you've got them all in place. Plus you don't actually have to take some of the hits the bosses are throwing out to you. You can roll a hit, come back in, get a hit back, and your stam comes back up. So, you know, you don't have to actually block everything just because you're a tank, you can roll. 10% into Mooncalf, obviously, to up stam recovery, 6.4 into Arcanist, and 10% into Tenacity, because we're in heavy armor, so that gives us back gigantic pulls on our resources. 20% into Warlord, and almost 10% into Bash, because we're doing a lot of bashing as a tank. Here's the important tree, the one that keeps you alive as, you know, yourself as the tank. You got a gigantic amount into there because I balance all of my resistances out, and that's how I like to have it, because then I can isolate who's the strongest ad in the room without having to worry about looking around and shit. New dungeon, easy to find out who's the hard hitting ad. 10%, 10%, and 20% because, you know, one, we want Unchained, but we've gone past that to be able to maintain dots a lot easier without having to worry about purifiers. I don't have to run efficient purge if I don't want to. Ironclad, 20%, and again 13 in there just to be able to balance that out. You can slow this video down at any point, go back and forward, take a look at it, but you know, don't have to take my advice for it. I've got a few splendid gentlemen walking around this house right now, and I'm going to go and get a word from them. Why, there's one of them right here. Let's have a word from him.
I too play Dragonite. Look at me. That's a Dragonite skill.
You know, I was skeptical at first about trying out a tank build, but since I threw on Core's build, my erectile dysfunction has completely gone away.
I don't even play a tank, much less PvE at all. But if I did, I would use this build.
As you can see, this build works absolutely fine. But again, you can try out what you want. You can go and waste all your gold if you want. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But this is the build that you want to be running. I promise you, you won't be let down. So, yep, making that jump over to Xbox. Last video on PlayStation. Sorry everyone over here, but get fucked. It's been great. It's been bad. You banned me once, and now I'm leaving you. So, yeah, bit of a sour ending, I guess. Peace, motherfuckers.